Welcome to FEO on the Air, the voice of the festivals and events industry in Ontario. This week, it's Experience Ontario with your host, FEO CEO Dave MacNeil.
Good morning and welcome to FEO on the Air. This week we're on edition Experience Ontario, and we're happy to be up in the beautiful area of Central County Tourism. And we're glad to have Executive Director Chuck Thibeault with us. Welcome, Chuck. We've also got joining us today Antonio Ianco and Troy Young from Attractions Ontario. Antonio's with the Vaughan Film Festival. So, Chuck, let's start with you, and maybe if you can give us a brief overview of what Central County, what is your region, and what geographical map do you cover up there?
Okay, well, the easiest way to describe it is if Toronto were a piece of carrot cake, we're that rich, luxurious cream cheese icing right over the top. So we're all of Durham region, all of York region, and then the Headwaters Tourism region, which is made up of all of Dufferin County, which includes Orangeville, Caledon, which is in Peel. We also steal Erin from Wellington County, so we share Erin with RTO4, and then we also have Glen Williams in Halton. So that's we also share them with RTO3.
So that's a big geographical.
It is about 2.5 hours to go from the northwest to the southeast. So
So what are some highlights of your area and your region this year that you're excited to share with everybody with your elevator speech?
The elevator speech. So we've for the last almost 10 years, we've sort of been the road trip destination. We recognize that if you picked any spot within central counties and drew a 75-kilometer circle around it, there's 7.1 plus million people in that circle. So our focus really is that drive market. So we really focus in on getting people out, building itineraries. That's why being here is an important piece of the puzzle, because events are a big catalyst for travel. Some of the highlights for me is we have two of the biggest attractions clusters in the province in Vaughan, with Canada's Wonderland as the anchor and all of the attractions that are around that. And then out in Durham, the Whitby-Oshawa area has a huge cluster of attractions, which really makes it great for for day visits, overnight visits, sporting events, all of that kind of stuff. But once again, everything is sort of tied into festivals and events when it comes to that catalyst. And of course, because we have all those northern towns, small towns, heritage, all of that is a huge driver for us as well, the shopping.
And really, truly a four-season destination all around.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We're out. Spring right now, when we talk to all of our municipal partners, spring is the one that they're not as focused on. It usually goes summer, winter, fall, spring, depending on where you are. Some of the areas with the fall colors have fall, but it's really become a four-season destination, and they need to be, right? Because all those businesses still need to stay solvent through the winter months. The other great thing about our region is that almost every single one of our communities has an approved visitor growth plan. So council has recognized the importance of the visitor economy and is working hard to figure out how do we grow that.
And Chuck, your area is defined for those of us in the industry as RTO 6.
That is correct. Can
you explain to some of our listeners and some of our members what is an RTO and what is the job of an RTO?
Okay, well, each RTO, this is going back a long time. RTOs are regional tourism organizations. We are an arm's length, provincially funded organization that's dedicated to developing, supporting, and promoting the tourism or the visitor growth assets in our regions. And how that looks in different regions is really dependent on the board and the staff that they have in place. Before the RTO started, I was an attractions guy. I was at Ontario Place. I was there for part of that Sorbero report, and I hated the whole notion of RTOs because I was thinking, okay, one more layer of bureaucratic crap for us to wade through to figure out how do we get help. So when this job posting came up, a bunch of people, I think Troy was one of them, threw it across my desk and said, "You keep saying these can work, make it work." So the only way it can work, because we don't own anything, is bottom up. So our job is to work with the businesses that are driving visitation and the festivals that are driving visitation and creating these little destinations that get people out and running. And that's really, when it comes to festivals and events, there's a big difference between one that's strictly focused on local, or saying they're focused on tourists, and actually focused on tourists. So the Vaughan Film Festival is a great example of an event and a festival that truly wants to drive visitation for longer than just coming to see them. Right? They partner with attractions like the McMichael. They partner with restaurants. They partner with hotels. So suddenly, yes, the catalyst is going to the Vaughan Film Festival, but that's not going to be the only thing they do. And that's really, when it comes to an RTO, all we really are focused on, what we are measured on, is how many people we get into our destination to spend more time and more money at more places. So, you look at some of the big fall fairs, they might drive a huge amount of tourists, but for us, it doesn't mean anything, because they bring them in, they keep them there, and then they go home. There's no destination. There's no partnership beyond that. So it's a big piece of the puzzle. So that's why it's great to have Troy here, because partnering with attractions is a great way to keep people.
So, for those festivals in your region that aren't partnering with you or aren't using the services of Central County Tourism, can you explain a little bit of what they're missing and why they should be involved if they're not engaged?
Yeah, we actually have a really good example. We had someone apply for our partnership funding for a festival in Durham, and I think it's going to drive a lot of people. It's a South Asian festival. We know that the South Asian market travels with their family. They do like to go and celebrate the culture. They said that they knew they were going to drive visitation, but when you looked at their application, they had no other partners. They hadn't partnered with anyone else. They had no hotel that was a partner. They had no restaurants that they were going to drive people to. There was just, they just wanted the, and I get it. As an event organizer, there's two types. There's ones that are passionate about something and they're putting one on, or you've got a city staff member who's mandated to do one, and those are typically to keep, as residents first and everyone else second. It's a busy job, so it's hard to think about that. So we told them, I said, we can't give you any money, because you're not, yes, you are going to drive tourism, but you're not tourism ready. So they applied again for the next intake, and guess what? You go on their website, they have 4 hotel partnerships, and they have a code that's used. And when you bring the hotel will let the organizers know when someone has booked the hotel, and that person gets to have their photo taken with one of the feature artists. It's actually, now they've taken it up a step. They're like, wow, because if I was coming to see my favorite artist, if it only is going to cost me a night at a hotel to get my picture taken with them, I'm probably going to do it. Then they also had restaurants, and they were telling the families what other attractions there were in town. They had a link to the town's tourism site. Now they're tourism ready, because they're not just all about them. They're about what is taking place. And it's good to see Andrews from Richmond Hill, because Andrew's predecessor, she put together some phenomenal new events, like the Halloween one, which was, yes, it's rooted in the community, but she saw something bigger. And of course, Richmond Hill, part of their job is to try to make all the businesses in Richmond Hill successful. So they did the same thing with their Halloween event, was come to the event, but here's everything else there is to see and do in Richmond Hill. All right. So that to me is the difference between a community event, or even and one that is trying to build a destination.
So, Chuck, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit,
Sure.
and maybe politically you can't answer it, but you're one of the good RTO partners for festivals and events, and I think you really get it. You get the partnership, you get the connection, and there's probably 6 or 7 others that are really keen on that connection, but there's a number that aren't. Is there a mandate from the ministry on? I mean, I guess the mandate is to build tourism in your regions, but
Yeah.
how come you operate so differently?
A couple of reasons. One is every RTO gets a different budget, and that I think that budget is based a lot on how many hotel rooms there are and a few other factors. So that overall budget also affects how much money we have to partner. So that's the main one. It also really depends on where the board and the staff are trying to head. Like in the first when the first year and a half or 2 years of me being the executive director of RTO 6, there were two, maybe three calls for me to be let go because I had told them the man I said don't hire me unless you want to switch to bottom up. They hired me, but almost half the board wasn't on board with that. They still wanted to do what was good for them and not good for the region. Now, since then, we have a board that's completely on side. We meet with all of our municipal partners. We'll probably start next month into the fall to find out what they're doing for 2026 and where they need help. So it's just a different approach. It's not the right approach. It's the right approach for us, I think, but that's why it's all different. And there is no mandate to work with any specific sector association. And Troy and I have had this chat many times. You guys are membership based. So as long as you're providing good value for your members, you guys will stay solvent. We don't have any membership. Our job is an overarching through all the different sectors and segments. And where it makes sense for us, and often that's with you guys, Troy and Attractions Ontario. We also work with Resorts of Ontario quite a bit. To us that makes sense because it's easier for you to reach your audience than it is for us because they're already captive with you.
And Chuck, a big part of our audience are municipalities. You've got a lot of municipalities in your area. Do you work much with the municipalities, or what's
we
the
work
connection?
we work with every single one of our municipalities. We actually facilitate the visitor growth plans. We've got three on the go right now. Two of them are refreshes and one of them was brand new. So that and we do it a little differently. We're not like a CBRE, a big consulting firm that comes in and does all the work and says what to do. We come in, same thing with the bottom up approach. We have the town puts together this great working group of 16 to 20 people from all, from arts and from sport and from festivals and all these different people who know the town inside and out and are passionate about it. And they say, what does tourism success look like in their community? And that's what the plan is. And it really, really works out well for us because they've
And
already got buy-in.
are you a conduit, like, to share best practices, like what's working in one municipality? Have you given this a try, or
Yeah,
sharing ideas that you've seen all around your area?
yeah, we do that. We do networking events where everyone in a community, or last week was all the different stakeholders from York Region were invited out between the hotels and the attractions and the festivals. And they all, if you were an attraction, you had a purple sticker. If you were the hotel, you had a green sticker. And we talked about building packages. We talked exactly about what festivals could be doing to make their stuff tourism ready, and that was the whole purpose. It was all about packaging, and it was phenomenal. 60 stakeholders showed up. It was supposed to go 4 to 6. By 7 o'clock, there were still over 30 people there talking. Right? That to me, that's what we should be doing because I don't own anything. It's when and Vaughan Film Festival wants something and we can help make that happen. It's going to be successful because they believe in it, right? It's got to be bottom up. I know I'm
So
sounding like
before we come over to Antonio and Vaughn, let's just talk a little bit about your relationship with the Vaughan Film Festival and how an RTO and a festival work together, and some of the symbiotic relationships that you guys have enjoyed over the years.
well, we don't. There's good and bad. There's some programs that we haven't funded, but the main one we have, and it's because every year the festival is looking to expand. How do they keep growing? And they do grow. And Antonio is a beast when it comes to fundraising and connecting with the right people. But at the same time, he's as much as he's embroiled in that day to day of trying to make this festival happen, he's looking at it at the broader benefit for Vaughan. And he uses some of our tools like we have Tom, I think he's on next week, who's talking about research. And, from the research, they've realized that a lot of the people that were coming to see the festival also like art. So he didn't just sit on that as information. He went out and he reached out to the McMichael gallery, and they put together this phenomenal new thing, which then introduced some of his visitors to the gallery and also exposed their clientele to the festival. It's a win-win for everyone. So I'll let Antonio talk a bit more about it because there's been good and bad. He's been pissed off at me a lot, but at the same time we continue to work through that and work together when it
Yeah.
comes to stuff that is going to grow the visitor economy.
And I always think that that little bit of tension is always good in a relationship, the give and take and the push and shove. And, it means everybody's invested and is looking for a common good at the end, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good transition over to Antonio Anko, who's the director of sponsorship at the Vaughan Film Festival. Antonio, can you tell everybody a little bit about the festival? Give us your elevator speech, a little bit of the history and where you guys are going.
Thanks, Dave. And thanks to FEO for creating this amazing platform. I think the more opportunities we have to share some of the challenges that we all face, the better it is for all the different stakeholders within all of our communities. So we're an international film festival that was founded in 2013. We celebrate the best in international short films. So each year we get between 200 and 300 short films from across the globe. We almost always have an Oscar winning or nominated short in our lineup. And this year was another example of that. And we just continue to understand and foster not just working relationships with emerging filmmakers, but also student filmmakers. So we challenge high school students across the entire province of Ontario to submit 10-minute short films. And the winning school gets $3,000 towards their program. And they also have won like $5,000 Panasonic cameras in the past. This year, Ontario Camera came on board, provide another $3,000 in kind worth of gear. So for us, it's always about bridging that gap. We have these amazing industry relationships with some of the best picture editors and sound designers in the world. How do we bridge that gap between them and these emerging artists who are trying to get into the field? So that's really a mandate that the festival has. We do it all through the power of short film. But to echo sort of what Chuck had said and take that step back is like, we're not able to operate to the level that we are without organizations like Central Counties Tourism, without operators or individuals like Chuck. I think the big reason for that is, and I always like highlighting the pandemic. Like the pandemic, it was as challenging as it was to have to navigate through that. You really relied on like government to support you, and I don't just mean financially. If anything, more like guidance and like what steps can we take to navigate it, and like being able to chat with Chuck and his team and Sandra as well, Quitera, and a few of the other members. They really helped us navigate what that pandemic looked like. I was always subscribed to the newsletter, letting us know when the minister at that time would be speaking about new things that were coming down the pipeline. Like I say it all the time, and I've said it to Chuck a number of times. I don't know how we would have got to where we are right now and navigated the pandemic without individuals like himself and without Central Counties Tourism. And that's in a challenging time like the pandemic. Navigating through that and getting advice from Chuck and how we can best navigate ourselves to put ourselves in a position to win. And I think a big piece to that are really these grants. Like this partnership program challenges us. It's one thing we've always been doing, but it really challenges us to take that next step. What kind of partners are we not working with in the community? What's missing? Where are the gaps? And we have great relationships with hotels. Like Aloft Vaughan Mills is our official hospitality partner. So anyone who's coming into the festival always stays at that hotel. We gather that information. We provide that information to Tourism Vaughan and Central Counties Tourism after the event. But the piece that Chuck had alluded to earlier, the Environics piece that we worked with Tom, there's not an event that's happened since Chuck has introduced Environics to us that we have not used their numbers. And essentially, it's gathering the postal codes. Chuck, tell me if I'm wrong in how it works. We gather the postal codes from that postal code information that we get from all the Eventbrite ticket sales. They're able to formulate a profile of the type of people that are coming to our event. If I were to tell you that that's probably not the most advantageous piece I have in my sponsorship deck, I'd be lying. We take that, not only do we present that to Tourism Vaughan and economic development, but we also take that for ourselves and show that high level information to our sponsors. And it's translated to me closing more sponsor opportunities than not. So we haven't stopped using it since it's been available to us.
And that data collection is so important. And the unfortunate thing is we all do it in some way, shape, or form. But you're right, diving into the what the data is telling you and bouncing off it. I love that idea of the arts and film. It's an obvious connection, but maybe not so obvious. And how did you spin off of that when you found out that information? And talk about how you brought McMichael into the program.
Well, it's a lot of marketing we started doing to target those individuals. So a lot of times, I'll jump into the McMichael piece in a minute, but a lot of times it's taking that information, looking at where other destinations or places that our audience is interested in, and we talk about the arts piece, right? And you're right, Dave. Like it might have seemed super obvious, but we were so hyper focused on the film piece, we didn't necessarily look at the art piece as a whole. So we started looking at that when we're tagging in our social media content, like when we're boosting our posts and we're targeting certain demographics, we're actually looking at like art goers as well, like museum goers, gallery goers. Like that was another thing that we started spending, and we saw the increase in attendance. Right, it was an audience that we weren't connecting with. And then we take it one step further. We have this amazing relationship with McMichael. We signed an MOU with them in just really cross pollinating both of our resources to better help the other. So we've always promoted McMichael at our events, and McMichael's done a good job of promoting us at their events and just sharing our databases as well. Like we have a lot of amazing partners that we both work with, and a lot of times we're not accessing each other's partners, but through this newfound partnership, we're able to have those connections and build those relationships together. But again, it's like I can't stress it enough. It's a lot of those details in the information provided through Environics has really helped us outline a strategic path for marketing and partnerships as a whole moving forward.
And we had a partnership last week with the Culinary Tourism Alliance, and everybody likes to eat, and I'm sure as part of your sponsorship package, there's that culinary element that people that go to the movies go out to eat, or go to art gallery, and in the past we've used data that then that culinary audience are also cyclists, or they like to walk on country paths, and there's just so much information in there that you can diversify yourself and build off-season stuff in. um what's your season, Antonio? Like when is the festival, and do you have offsprings of it, or is it just the one festival season?
It's interesting, Dave, when you bring that up. I just hear all of the friends that I grew up with, and they all say, "So I don't get it. All you do is one event a year." It's probably. I'm not saying that's the question you're asking, but I hear it. I hear it, and I get like I start to shake a bit because it's like, do you realize? Not you, Dave, but again, it's post traumatic stress with friends of mine, and if any of them are tuned in, they'll know what I mean by that. We never stop. Obviously, like from a festival event standpoint, the main festival was in June last year. We've actually moved it to July this year, so it's going to be July 6th to 9th. But then we have events leading up to it. So if I was to go in the order of the way our events look, like usually the festival season starts with something called Inspiring Future Filmmakers, which is coming down the pipeline right now, where we bring in some of the industry's best. It's usually September or October. This year it's in October. We bring some of the industry's best together, and they touch on different elements of the industry. So a few years ago, we brought the picture editor in from Ted Lasso, and he talked about picture editing for Ted Lasso. Then we leverage the relationships with high schools and the educators. We encourage them to bring their students and faculty in to come participate in that as well. And then a lot of the relationships we have with York University and some of the other post-secondary spaces. So that's IFF. Moving forward, we have an event that we created, which was really another reason why these partnerships work. And like we always look to work in a partnership, and like Chuck talked about it earlier, it's not about working in a silo, it's about working with your partners. We have this great partnership with Tourism Vaughan, and we had a conversation actually at TIO a few years ago. Me and Don from Economic Development were like, how could we do something more with our press conference that we have every year? So we have this big announcement that we have where we announce our film lineup. No different than the major festivals and when they do that. But we call ours Vaughn's Summer Lineup because we didn't want it to just be about us announcing our film lineup. We wanted to bring in all the major stakeholders. So Michael will participate, Canada's Wonderlands participated in the past, Courtright, a lot of these other stakeholders, Reptilia, and everyone gets between 5 and 10 minutes to pitch their summer to the entire community. So there's a lot of like people that are looking to schedule their summers out. They make it a point to come out there and they hear what everyone's schedule looks like and they pencil that in. And the headline for Vaughan Summer Lineup is us announcing our film lineup and our schedule. So that's one of the big pieces. And then we also have another event called Spring Launch that happens in May, which is any information we didn't release up to that point. So who are our celebrity guests coming in, who's our music headliner, our host for the awards, that all gets announced there. And then we roll into Festival Week that happens now in July. But to answer your question, Dave, we don't stop. There's no off season internally for the team, but obviously those are high level moments that happen throughout the year.
Great. Thanks, Antonio. Andrew, you're on deck now. Andrew's with Richmond Hill, one of our municipal partners, and both Antonio and Andrew, past FEO award winners, continue to produce great programming. Andrew, talk a little bit about Richmond Hill and what you guys are working on, what's been working for you, and the power of Central County tourism in that area.
I appreciate the opportunity to jump on board and speak to all of you this morning. It's Richmond Hill. We've been putting together a number of events, obviously, for several years. I like to break down our portfolio into two main sections. We have, of course, our city-led events. So that is just events that event staff here at Richmond Hill plan and lead from start to finish. So we have a group of 3 full-time coordinators, and each of us have a part-time assistant as well to help us deliver and execute award-winning events here at the city of Richmond Hill. Our big ones, of course, Canada Day on July 1st. We just came after RIPFest this past weekend. That was July 18th, 19th, 20th, I believe. So those are 2 large-scale events that we typically plan, or bulk of our planning time for city-led events. But we do a number of smaller scale events throughout the year. In comparison to the 2 that I just mentioned, we run a weekly concert series July and August at one of our destination parks in Richmond Hill at Mill Pond Park. We do outdoor movie nights in August and September, and then we transition over to, of course, the winter season with an outdoor Christmas market for 5 consecutive Saturdays in November and December at Richmond Green Park, which is our main destination park at the city of Richmond Hill, and then also, of course, capping the year off with a New Year's event on December 31st. But the other wing that's important, of course, is community-led festivals and events. So, there's only so many events that city staff can put on a yearly basis, and we rely heavily on a lot of our community members to run events at the city of Richmond Hill. And we've really noticed post-pandemic, the intake and community event applications that we've received has really doubled since the pandemic. I think we're at about 45 applications on a yearly basis now. And Richmond Hill has a really rich, diverse community with about 58% of the residents identifying as immigrants and 66% as visible minorities. So, we focus on, of course, the regular events, the Canada Days, the Christmas markets, the first night New Year's events, but we rely on those community partners to really help bring out the diverse population here at the city of Richmond Hill. So there's a Persian New Year's event that takes place in March. And then we also have a Persian Food Festival that takes place at our destination park in Richmond Green for the August long weekend, and then also an Asian Food Festival as well that takes place in the September long weekend. And that's just a few to name of many community-led festival events that happen at the city of Richmond Hill. With respect to Central County's tourism, and we rely, of course, on some of the partners as well to help, grow our events on a yearly basis. In years past, working with Sandra and Chuck, I haven't spoken to you too much at all. I know Dan has, but the work with Central County Tourism we've done in the past for a few years. Pre-COVID, we did a lot of work with the visitor research program up until 2020, excuse me, and that really helps us gather a lot of postcode information to report back to us from Central County Tourism to get a good understanding of who's coming to Richmond Hill, and really help plan our sponsorship packages and rebrand our programming aspects that we're offering at these events to really help cater to the folks that are coming to the events on a yearly basis. And then we also tested out the geofencing program in 2022 to target visitors at city-led events. And, we'll continue to do some work with Central Counties Tourism, of course, as the years go on, but we have a great working relationship with them.
So, Andrew, one of the things that I don't think a lot of our viewers understand, when you think of a municipal event, it's usually free. But really, there's no such thing as a free event, right? Like, I mean, that free event, there's still a cost to the city that goes on, and some people think, well, they should be doing this, this, and this, but the budgets only go so far. Can, can you talk a little bit about the expense of running an event at the municipal level?
Yeah, it's always an ongoing conversation, right, Dave? Internally, in particular, when you're dealing with, to your point, we have a well-oiled machine when we run our events on a yearly basis, but the events require a lot of support from a number of internal stakeholders. So we're not just the event team. Of course, we have an approved operating budget that gets passed through council on a yearly basis to help run these festivals and events. A number of contracts that we have to issue, of course, with key contractors and suppliers, programming, entertainment. Of course, when you have your main stage and your headliners and your opening acts, and you want to, present a number of opportunities for folks to perform and showcase their offerings at city events. And we try to offset some of those costs, of course, with sponsorship revenue, but also working with a number of vendors, whether it's marketplace vendors, food vendors. I'm not going to call them vendors, but we work with amusement offering providers as well to help offset some of those costs to the taxpayer per se when it comes to running these festivals and events. But in addition to the operating budget that gets approved on a yearly basis, but what doesn't get incorporated, of course, are the staffing costs behind the scenes as well. So we have our event staff that plan to run the event on a yearly basis, but we rely heavily, heavily on support of our public works team at the City of Richmond Hill. They help monitor and set up the event and strike the event on a yearly basis, on a per event basis, rather. We also work with our communication staff to be on site to help update any emergency announcements that take place at the event, on site for photography, with bylaw as well to come out on site to manage any situations that might arise with respect to their portfolio. So it's a number of moving pieces. We rely heavily with our Performing Arts Center to help with our entertainment booking on site, dealing with the entertainers. So a lot of staffing costs in addition to the operating budget that goes on. So to your point, David, is free. It's free to the public to come on site and enter. But that doesn't, of course, account for the number of staffing costs and operating budget that goes into these events.
Thanks very much, Andrew. A good look at Richmond Hill and what goes on at the municipal level. Batting fourth in the cleanup position, Troy Young, ready to take us out to the park. Troy?
I am.
Welcome.
Thank you. Once again, I'm happy to be here. And Chuck has done amazing things at RTO 6, Central Counties, Headwaters, York, Durham, whatever you want to call it. I've seen it.
York Durham Headwaters.ca.
York Durham Headwaters.ca. Okay, I'll stop calling you Central Counties then. But I think it's because, as Chuck alluded to earlier, he came from the attraction side. He get it. He gets it. He understands how the interplay of tourism and all those different parts work, which is what he has brought to the table at York Durham Headwaters. So kudos. I wish they all worked as effectively as yours does, Chuck. But we've got so many attractions across this region. It is actually probably our second largest collection of attractions after the city of Toronto itself. And some major ones, of course, like a Canada's Wonderland. But we want to talk about the clusters because it's the cluster of attractions, and not just the cluster of attractions. It's looking for the attraction, a good hotel, some quality places to eat. You mentioned culinary tourism earlier, Dave, and even the festivals. And even the festivals that, as Chuck alluded to, aren't necessarily tourism festivals, those local festivals. The local festival may not be the catalyst that brings somebody to the destination, but it can be why they choose that particular timing, right? So it's working together with everything as that cluster, looking for those clusters of attractions and everything else, because there are very few attractions that drive significant business on their own. You'll always find, a niche traveler that is looking for that one particular thing, and they'll come to an area just to do that. But that's the rarity. We're talking about the general traveler. You need to be able to provide them multiple things. Again, I'll allude to Canada's Wonderland. Canada's Wonderland is one of those few attractions that can drive significant travel on its own. But as Chuck said when he was talking about the fall fairs, it gets you on site. You spend all your time and all your money there, and then you go home. So it doesn't necessarily spill over to the rest of the region. Some of these other attractions, they have to work with each other. They have to work with their hotels. They have to work with restaurants. They have to work with festivals to create that vibe, to create that um, package of activities that people will come and enjoy, that then encourages them to get into the car and drive and spend some significant time and money in the region. So, I mean, we look at things like McMichael. You know, you've got this group of 7 um, awesome gallery that's unique right there up in Kleinberg. Never mind my dog in the background. We've got places like the Robert McLaughlin Gallery out in Oshawa. Oshawa, to me, there's a lot there that is overlooked. I mean, Neb's Fun World. If you've never been to Neb's Fun World, it is one of the best family entertainment centers, I think, in the entire province. It's got a little bit of everything. We've got Parkwood Estates, gorgeous home. The founder of General Motors of Canada, right there in Oshawa. Great places to stay in Oshawa, great places to eat. You get out to Clarington, you've also got Treetop Trekking, which is in 3 locations in this region. We've got them in Oshawa. We've got them out in the Ganaraska Forest in Clarington. We've got them up in Whitchurch Stouffville, and including in their location there, they've got the Upla, which is a great big mesh trampoline system up in the trees. It's fantastic if you've never seen it. There's so much to do in this region. York, Durham, Headwaters.ca, right, Chuck? Or
Yep.
you can come to attractionsontario.ca and also see all the great things.
Well, and get discounts and added value on your site
With
because
the coupons from
that's
our
right.
site. Yes, we do offer coupons to a lot of these different attractions. We'll also show on our site places to stay, places to eat. Like if you've never been to Newcastle, the Walsh's Snug, you should try it out. It's up on my website. But there's just so much to do, and it's the different organizations, they really do have to work together. And I appreciate what Chuck does in his RTO because they do strive to collect the various tourism businesses and get them working together. We have a saying at our organization that the person across the street isn't your competition, they're your best friend. You should be working with them because collectively you will bring more people to that destination than you ever will on your own. So joint marketing programs, work with your DMO, work with your RTO, work with sector associations like Attractions Ontario and FEO and anybody else that it matters to.
Thanks, Troy. And it's so important. We're all stronger when we work together. And as you know, as we get everybody thinking of themselves as some kind of travel indicator and effector, you know, extending your stay and looking for other things to do in and around your region is really important. So, Chuck, we started off with you, and I'm going to come around circle and just get you to give us your final word and your final invite for people to come to your region.
Sure. A couple of things. One is even Canada's Wonderland does recognize the power of partnership. The last 2 or 3 years, they have had a partnership with Vaughan Mills, their Winterfest, and at least one, if not 2, hotels where it was a package through the hotel that included your tickets, you know, a voucher for Vaughan Mills, and you know, and the hotel stay. So you know, it's interesting because we always think, oh, well, Wonderland's so big. Wonderland puts through more people in a day than most attractions see in a year. It's as simple as that. So they really, when you think about it, so, well, they don't need to play with anyone else, but they also recognize that there are opportunities to get people to come back to their place 2 or 3 days and get more money by saying, hey, we've got Vaughan Mills, we've got Reptilia. It's not by accident that all of these things grew up around Canada's Wonderland. All right, we put our first, when I was at Putting Edge a million years ago, our Putting Edge was down at the Vaughan Entertainment Center because we would capitalize on the people who were coming from, Thunder Bay and from Cornwall to spend 4 or 5 days in Vaughan and Toronto, of course, but doing all those family activities. So the more we had that was close by, the better it is. Um, so I just thought I'd throw that out there because I love the fact that they do spend so much time uh, partnering with other people.
Yeah, and
So,
I want to add to that because you're right, Chuck. They do. They're a great partner to work with. They recognize the role they play in tourism, and they're always willing to partner. Like they admit that they're working with us as Attractions Ontario because it would be if they weren't there, it would be um, pretty obvious that they weren't, and they feel a certain corporate responsibility to support the sector and to support the region that they're in. But Chuck, you mentioned about people coming down and going to Toronto too. We should add that if you want to come and see the city, but you're kind of balking at the costs of some of the
oh,
hotels in the downtown area,
absolutely.
there's a
Our region, we also very much say that we're the hub. And
yeah.
we'll let you go. We'll do links. You go spend your couple of days in Toronto, but come back and spend the evening with us, which is great for the attractions, good for the evening festivals, all sorts of stuff. So it really does make sense.
And the subway goes right to the Vaughan City Center now.
Yep,
Right? So you can
absolutely.
get downtown in, well, it's about an hour by the subway still, even from there. But
That's all right. Put on a
you
good
can
good
easily
tune.
get downtown if you don't want to worry about driving in Toronto traffic, and you're coming into the area from somewhere else in Ontario. Vaughan's a great spot to go and be able to take public transit into the city.
Yeah,
Troy,
and
if
then
you didn't
for
say that, I was going to.
oh, perfect. Look at this. I would say we're in sync. We've talked a
And
little bit
vice
about
versa. If you're
we've
downtown, you want to get up to Vaughan, it'll
yeah,
take
that's
you right
right.
to the city center.
That's exactly right. Um, we talked a little bit about the different research that's out there. Postal code for festivals is always better because geofencing, which Tom will talk about a bit more next week, it works off a cell phone ping. So the longer the duration that you're looking at a fenced area, the better and the better the data. If you're in an RTO, well, all of you are, anyone who's listening, reach out to your RTO to see if they have the ability to do research analysis, your postal code analysis. If they don't, we'll do it for you. So there are no walls when it comes to the visitor economy. It's not like we will actively help all businesses within Ontario and beyond with anything we can do to help grow the visitor economy. So I think that's an important piece of the puzzle is that if your RTO doesn't have the capabilities to do it, we do. So let us know and we can help you out. There is a small cost associated with it, but that's okay.
So I just want to say thanks everybody for this edition of Experience Ontario. Chuck Thibeault, Antonio Lanco, Andrew Caladena, and Troy Young. We really appreciate you being a part of this. And as we have said throughout the podcast here, we're all stronger when we work together. Next week, join us as we have our master class, and Tom Gerkwin joins us, who's the research and development manager at Central County Tourism. And we're going to talk about harnessing the power of data collection, as Chuck has mentioned a few times. So join us next week, Tuesday, July 29th at 11 o'clock for Harnessing the Power of Data Collection with Tom Gerkwin. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to FEO on the Air, the voice of festivals and events in Ontario.